he is a Renaissance man. So he's got multiple things going for him. One of them is is our Tuesday Club officer, and we always look forward to what he's saying at our meetings. Patrick's interests and gifts span multiple disciplines. Patrick started his career as an engineer, designing and building petrochemical plants for British Petroleum, who you know as Amoco at one time. After 10 years, he switched into computer systems, consulting with Oracle, someone else you know, serving the majority of Fortune 20 companies. After semi retiring in 2022, who can do that at that young age, but he can. Patrick formed Data LLC, which focuses on providing business systems support for Chicago based clients. And again, as I said earlier, we're happy to announce that Patrick just completed his American Chef Federation culinary program in December. So he is clearly pursuing his passion for cooking and a passion for life. Patrick and his wife, Maurice, make their home in Glenview. Please welcome a really smart guy, a really good guy, and someone who now has a full hour to help us learn something important instead of 10 minutes. So I'm going to pass the torch over to Patrick. And while we want him to give his presentation, if you have an urgent question while he's giving it, by all means, put it in chat. And if I see that it's something pertinent to what he's talking about, we'll stop him and he'll answer your question. Otherwise, we'll wait till the end. Patrick, thank you. What you're hearing is applause from all of us.
Thank you so much, Ron. It's really welcome. First of all, welcome to my office. I want to say that for the Tuesday Club, I'm looking forward to using some of those chefing skills for the next bake sale. That'll be wonderful. I'm gonna just, if you don't mind, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen, and I'm going to share this presentation. So just give me a quick nod if you see what I'm showing you. Yeah? Okay. So originally last August, I was here with Corporal Matt Aniolowski from the Northfield Police Department. Actually, yeah. And our topic was home safety, which was going to be presented by me, home security, which was going to be by Corporal Aniolowski, and then home automation, which you can see I've got it highlighted in purple because that's actually what I'm going to be talking about today. Because we actually ran out of time. So the first two topics took almost 55 minutes and we only had a few minutes left for questions. So what I'm going to do is touch on now, because I originally had 20 minutes, I went through and added a lot of initial learning, some terms of the trade. I added some introductory topics that we can talk through. So that would make this appropriate pretty much for any audience. So I'm just going to go ahead and hopefully skip to the next slide here. Oh, there's me, right? North Shores News Center Technology Volunteer. And I'm going to speak on home automation, which is otherwise known as smart home. Okay, great. First thing I wanted to do was I wanted to review Alan Kaufman's presentation. I'm not specifically here to talk about home safety, but during the wintertime, this becomes an extremely important topic. And so just to go over this really quick, when you're preparing your home for, safe operations, watch out for power cords and throw rugs, install grab bars and non-slip bathtub mats or stickers. Widen doorways and use locks that open from both sides. This has actually happened to me where a toddler locked me out of the bathroom and I didn't have the key. Ouch. Remove unnecessary furniture from the living room. Keep items within easy reach of the kitchen and install adequate lighting and security in their home. We're going to actually talk about this point in some detail. The other thing was that, an important part of winter is keeping the snow and ice away from your walkways. In some cases, that means putting down a little bit of salt. In some cases, that means, actually, taking good care as to whether or not you're going to need some assistance with the snow shoveling. A close friend of mine, he didn't have a heart attack, but he needed 2 stents put in. He's 65 years old. And his cardiologist said, shoveling snow is now something that you're not going to do anymore. And so, he went and he found a service and he's using that service to help him out in that particular perspective. And I think that balance is something that we all need to find. Corporal Anilowski, he talked about when he was here last time, personal safety at home. And he talked about personal safety while you're out, having situational awareness, deterring customer fraud and con games, crimes of financial exploitation against the elderly. We had the FBI come here and talk about what we're seeing is almost an exponential increase in the amount of financial crimes against the elderly. And with the assistance of artificial intelligence, these attacks are becoming more and more sophisticated, whereby they're copying images, they're copying voices, they're copying video, and you can be lured into a sense or feeling of safety where there really is none, where they're basically creating fraudulent images or fraudulent voices and convincing you to do things that otherwise you probably wouldn't do if you were staring it right in the face. Safety tips to reduce burglary risk, celebrating holidays safely, shopping safety online, and then helpful internet sites for seniors. So you've heard me many times talk about seniorplanet.org. Senior Planet is the older adult technology website of AARP. It's available at seniorplanet.org. And my opinion is the curriculum they have there, both pre-recorded and live streaming sessions, is some of the best out there. Perhaps second only to Bob Dauber's content here on the Tuesday Club. Okay, now my formal presentation starts. And what I wanted to first talk about was to give you some background as to how things have changed and what are the enabling technologies for using home internet. So most of you remember, if we look at this, we're going to talk about a modem versus a router versus a gateway. And actually, someone was advertising different types of routers, and I added this fourth image here, which says Wi-Fi network switch. But starting the first one, we see on the left, ISP stands for Internet Service Provider. So when we connect to the internet, it is, for the most part, there are two potential ways, right? Either you're connecting through an internet service provider or a cellular internet service provider. So two basic ways, through a cellular connection or basically a cable Wi-Fi connection. And what you need for that is you need a modem. And most of you remember when we had one of those pink or blue modems, and they were 14.4K or 28.K kilobaud. So extremely slow by today's standards, and that was connected via a network cable to one computer that was probably sitting in the center of your house. So we were connecting to America Online and CompuServe and a bunch of different things. This technology was largely, because most of this started out in the 90s. I think I had my first PC. It was 80s for me because I was, an engineer, computer scientist. But for the most part, I think I started purchasing standalone computers, early 90s. This second view is more of a modern view. And so we see an internet service provider, and we've got a modem inside our house that's connecting most likely to a coaxial cable. And then we're connecting it to a wireless router. And what this is allowing us to do is to allow wireless connections to different devices in our house. We may have, now every wireless router has bandwidth restrictions, but it also has a maximum number of connections. These are called leases. And I think in the beginning, the wireless routers typically, like if you had a Netgear router, the maximum amount would be 20 connections. Now, that's really, given the number of smart devices that are now available. And let's say you have a dinner party and you want to give everyone access to your network. I'm not sure you should really do that. We'll talk about that in a minute, but you might easily run out of space, and someone will try and log in and say, hey, I can't get on the internet. Well, another person will say, the internet's just fine. You've run out of simultaneous connections to your wireless router. The third thing that happens is this is a simpler model, and what you see is a gateway. A gateway is very simply a modem plus a router in one device. So again, internet service providers, they are typically providing you, actually leasing you a gateway, and these typically run $10 a month, and they manage the device for you. So they manage the firmware upgrades, they manage the administration, and you have a very small amount of control. But it's a box, and literally, if there's a problem with it, you flip it on and you flip it back off, right? So what happens when a modem or a router or a gateway, you turn it on and you turn it off? What actually happens is it releases all of the existing leases. So all the existing connections are dropped. Right? And the next thing that happens is it resets your connection to your ISP, your internet service provider's central office. Basically, and it's going to look and make sure it's going to clear out all the caches. I generally recommend that some people call this power cycling, powering these devices down, anything that requires updates, generally once a week. Now, whether that's your laptop or whether it's your gateway and router, whether it's your television, you want to make sure that you get those updates, especially the security updates, in a timely manner. So this is something that, and you'll see me, in one of the first things that I do when people come to see us on Fridays from 10 a.m. to noon at the Guitarski Room, not this Friday, but following Fridays, hopefully, or starting, we'll get back and start again soon. But we want to, one of the first things that we'll do is we'll power cycle your device, and we'll clear out everything that's currently running, and we'll look for any existing updates that were missed, or perhaps ones that failed to install. We saw that actually a couple Fridays ago. This last model is using a Wi-Fi network with a network switch. If you have grandchildren, that are gamers and they need the full speed of your connection, what this allows to do, what you're typically going to see is, so we've got a modem and a router. You can see there are a couple of Wi-Fi connections there on the left and center, but then there's a network switch. This is an unmanaged switch. So that plugs right into the back of that router. And there's typically at least one and perhaps as many as four network connections. These are RJ45 connections for the technical folks. But what that does is it allows you to operate that computer on the right at the full speed of the connection. Now, if people are doing gaming, if they're doing anything that requires, if you were doing, I don't know, advertising artwork, and you're doing things with complex applications, having the full speed of the computer might be something that's useful. I actually use this design in my house because this computer that I'm talking to from right now has the ability to do webcams and different types of videos. And so I need the full speed. I have a 500 megabit connection, and right now I'm talking to you at that full 500 megabits. So you're going to get me in 1080p, and my sound is going to be, 32 bits and all this happy stuff. I'm going to go on to the next slide after introducing this introduction. So I wanted to talk about some definitions. Before I start talking about home automation or smart devices, I want to define the terms I'm going to use. Home automation is also known as domotics. I've never heard that term before, but I'm told that's a real term. It's the process of controlling and monitoring a home's systems and appliances. This can include lighting, climate control, entertainment, security, fall protection, and much more. A smart home device is a physical device that is controlled directly or controlled via a home platform. And we'll talk in a minute about what a home platform is. An example of this would be a smart light bulb or a smart smoke detector or a smart speaker. Now here, I wanted to avoid some confusion because some people think, these terms are partially synonymous. So a smart home is a home equipped with home automation devices. So if you have home automation devices in your home, to a greater or lesser extent, you have a smart home. So this is just a very over-encompassing term that just means, hey, I'm using these devices that connect directly to the internet, typically via Wi-Fi. Home platform. Home platform is an application that controls home automation and enables smart home devices. Most popular ones are Amazon Alexa, Google Nest, Apple Home. In some cases, home automation systems offer their own platforms. So ADT Home Security offers their own platform. And then platform skills. So software that allows your smart device that communicates with a home platform. Amazon Alexa has over 180,000 skills. And we'll talk about this in my last slide. I'll go through a list of skills that are just part of the Alexa interface. You can find your phone or create a grocery list or play music. Technically, this is an interface between the platform and the smart device, which simply controls the management of smart devices. I'm going to talk about this in the next slide a little bit, why this is important. So generally right now, there are basically 3 platform choices. Most of you, I believe, have seen these before. The standard, the smart device that you enter into smart home or home automation with is a smart speaker. And so I'm showing you, so on the left is Amazon Alexa, and then we've got Google changed about 6 months ago, it changed its marketing. It was calling it Google Home. It now calls it Google Nest. And there's a reason for that, and I'll talk about that in a minute as well. And then Apple Siri. And what you'll find is that under Alexa is the kind of the older brother of this, and it actually has the most device choices. There are several 100,000 choices that you're able to of devices that you're capable to enable. Google Nest turns out that it's one of the easiest to use, but it's also the best for people that use Android on their phone. And so you'll find the interface is simpler to use and simpler to control. And then the last one is Apple Siri. It actually has the best security, but there aren't a large number of devices that are made to use Apple Siri, and the interfaces are minimal. And so my suggestion is, looking at this, is to try and reduce the number of platforms that you need. If you think about it, you don't want a Google Nest sitting next to an Amazon Alexa, sitting next to an Apple Siri, and all of a sudden you say, "Hey Google," or you say, "Hey Alexa." You really don't want to have a large number. So to the extent possible, one of your strategies might be, and we'll talk about this towards the end, what devices are of interest to you, and then take a look and see which platform will best serve your needs. So if most of the devices you want are Alexa compliant, then maybe Amazon Alexa is the best choice. If you really want to be able to control everything from your Samsung phone that runs the Android operating system, maybe Google Nest is the best way for you to go. And if so obviously we're there to talk you through these things on Fridays from 10 until noon in the Katarski room. We'd be pleased to discuss some of these things with you. So this is basically how a home platform communicates and how it works. And so you can see here's a gentleman here on the top left, and he's saying, "Alexa, can you please turn on the kitchen light?" This smart speaker is an Amazon Echo. They also have like an Echo Dot. They have lesser expensive versions. The Amazon Echo has more functionality. It has higher quality sound. So if you were an audiophile, maybe this is something that would be interest to you. You can see that there's something here called an Alexa service that leverages a smart skill. A smart skill is really just an interface between the device and the Amazon cloud. And like I said, there are over 180,000 skills. So you can operate a lot of different devices. And you can see here in the lower right, it's the Smart Home Developer Kit. So the people that are creating these devices, they have to specifically write software that allows Alexa to communicate with it. So this is something that you'll never see. The number 4, I just put it in there for completeness. But basically, this is the interface. What allows any device that has been rated as compatible with Amazon Alexa or Google Nest or Apple Siri to actually function and actually get a response. So you can see the next step. It sends that message to a device cloud. That is, again, the platform cloud that hosts all of these endpoints. And then it will go and it'll connect through your Wi-Fi and actually actuate the device. I told Alexa to turn the light on, and boom, the light turns on. This happens in a fraction of a second. It's about 250 milliseconds is the time that this generally takes for this trip. So it's a quarter of a second. You really wouldn't notice the time. What I want you to see, though, and what I want you to understand is when we talk about Internet of Things, or when we talk about platform devices, that they are dependent on this connection to the internet. So these devices, for the most part, do not function if your internet is down. Very important point for you to notice. Now, there is a 2% exception. There are certain devices that you can buy that are non-platform devices. In other words, they're simply an app on your phone that you can say, "I'm going to buy this special light bulb, and it comes from China, and all it needs is this app to function, and it's not going to use Wi-Fi. It's going to interact via Bluetooth to my phone." They exist. It's really a small subset, at least today, it's a small subset of the total number of devices. If we were to look on Amazon right now, and we wanted to buy a smart device, you're going to see that they are going to say, "Hey, this is Alexa compatible. This is Google Nest compatible. This is Apple compatible. They will list that right on the page so that you know right away. So your principal decision is to decide which platform you're going to use. Now, let me tell you for a minute what I do. So a while ago, I replaced my routers. I had a Netgear router, and I replaced them with Google Nest mesh routers. And so I had to launch the Google Home for home automation, the Google Home platform, to control these Google Mesh routers. And so what I did was I put my entire home internet on Google. Everything else in my house, including my security system, smart speakers, televisions, everything else is run via Amazon Alexa. So I've kind of broken my first rule, which was, what did I say? Let me go back here. Oh, that's not right. I said reduce the number of platforms that you need in order to do this. So I actually use two, mostly because I want the best possible performance, and I'm not as concerned about having two different apps. So I'm opening the Google Home app, and I'm also opening Amazon Alexa. So two, I'm going to say I think it's the right number, at least for me. And it's worked out okay. Although I do, sometimes I'll open up the wrong one and say, oh my God, I'm not, nothing's happening when I'm trying to do something, or else I'll forget and I didn't say, hey, Alexa, when I need to say, hey, Google. These kind of things happen. You get used to it over time. So what am I going to talk about for the next 30 minutes or so? I'm going to talk about home monitoring. Home monitoring is designed to provide security.
Patrick, excuse me.
Certainly.
There's before you move to that section, can you
Yeah,
quickly define? Diana is asking this question. Can you
certainly.
quickly define internet versus Bluetooth?
Oh, absolutely. So the internet is a system of computers that are interconnected across the globe that provide access to data through a series of routers. It is a global connection to send and retrieve data. Bluetooth is a standardized wireless connection of one device to another. So, for example, a lady brought in her hearing aids, and her hearing aids were Bluetooth enabled. What that means is there is a driver on her cell phone, her smartphone, that says, hey, here are your hearing aids. I'm going to connect your hearing aids to your cell phone. She gets a call. The call goes to her hearing aids. That connection is a Bluetooth wireless connection. So that is actually using the internet via a very specific compatible mode, and that mode is called Bluetooth. It is a basic wireless connection between one device and another. Does that make sense?
It does, and it explains sometimes maybe how you can. Well, never mind. That's you've explained it. Thank you.
Certainly, certainly. So what we're going to talk about in the next couple of slides, we're going to talk about home security systems, two basic types: professional install, uh, professional install and monitor versus do it yourself. And so these are, these are two big categories when we talk about home monitoring, or this smart home aspect of home monitoring. The next thing we'll talk about are medical alert systems. So these are systems that provide immediate access to a responder. It offers an extra measure of safety for older adults or anyone that lives alone. And then an emergency response system. That is a system that will respond immediately to a crisis with minimal effort. It might be considered like a 911 forwarding service. So if 911, for some reason isn't available, these emergency response systems that we're going to take a look at basically fill that need. They make the call for you. And I want to say, does anyone know what this means? 21668 AL? Okay. And I guess you can't actually respond because, so this means February 16th, 1968, the first 911 call was created in the Alabama state legislation. So this doesn't go back forever and ever and ever. I can recall when, people had phone numbers next to their analog phones and said, here is police, fire, ambulance, and so on. And that was the number that you called at the time prior to the 911 services. I'm going to take a look at this now in a little bit more detail. So home security systems, what are they here for, right? crime prevention. There's an additional feeling of safety and comfort in the home and while away. This is an important point because my wife and I talked about this, and I'm only concerned about really having the systems on when we're home. And she is really concerned about having it while we're away. And it's just a difference, for me, I have insurance. I'm not really that concerned. I'm more concerned if we're in the house and someone attempts entry, I want to know and I want to take protective measures. They also provide assistance during medical emergency, provides improved home system efficiency if you're using your home security system as the platform. And it can help with wandering behavior. If we have someone that's having some issues with dementia, what's required? There's an initial investment to install a home monitor, and you have to purchase a home monitoring service contract. May require maintenance and upgrades from time to time, and there's some diligence in learning to operate the security system. Generally, it's supposed to be install and forget, but it does take a little time to learn. And most of these, a lot of the functionality is controlled either by your smartphone or by a control keypad. And so all of a sudden, you might be, in an urgent matter, and you're thinking, okay, what's my 6-digit PIN code that deactivates the system? So yeah, and so you can see I'm showing a couple here. I'm showing ADT, I'm showing Simply Safe Home Security, and I'm showing Secured by Xfinity Home as some of the larger offerings in the area. When we look at professionally installed and monitored home systems, what are the pros and cons of them? First, the pro is that there are complete system warranty available. If a component or a device fails, that device could be anything. It could be a motion detector, it could be a door opening, it could be anything. It could be a carbon monoxide detector. They're covered. The installation service has warranty and guarantees to cover any issues. And it's completely customizable to your home. So you can say, hey, I have too many windows in my basement. I'd rather put a motion detector down there. And that's actually what I did. And I'm going to show you that in a few minutes about what that might look like. So you're going to have a lot of smart choices. You can have lights, you can have thermostats, smoke detectors, a bunch of different options. And then one of the important offerings is a panic button. And so you can put as many of those panic buttons as you want. And so what it does is it basically says an alarm is going to be triggered and there's going to be an immediate response. And these are physical devices, and you can put them where you feel that you need them. And what are the cons? Well, it's more expensive than do-it-yourself installation, and they're between $300 and $2,000 to install with the original capital purchase. And then between $18 and $60 a month for 24/7 monitoring. May require the installer to drill into the walls. And it may be difficult to move system components since they're typically affixed to the house. So if you decide you're going to install this and then move, it gets to be a little bit more difficult to move a security system. Generally, you're going to sell it with the house. Again, a couple examples. I've got Xfinity Home and I've got ADT. These are the third, Keith. They're the local. I believe they're based in Highland Park. And I see a lot of the expensive homes have the Keith Security placard in their front yards. I don't know anything about them, but I do know that they seem to be a pretty popular choice, and they're 100% local. So it's something that, if you were evaluating one of these systems, that might be something that you consider. Having someone local might get you better service. Do it yourself. So this is the model that I use, and let's go through the pros and cons real quick. Definitely less expensive, $200 to $600 worth of equipment. My equipment costs were about $325. And you're going to see that I have a large number of devices and sensors. And between $15 to $30 a month to monitor. Mine's $10 a month for 24-hour day, 7-day a week, full-time monitoring. You're able to start with just a few components and then add more as your budget allows. And it's easy to move the components from one place to another. So I chose the ones that I would say most of my cameras are hardwired, and most of the sensors are battery based. I have to replace the batteries every 3 years. That can be, I got to get up on the wall on a step ladder and take it off and unscrew the back and replace the batteries. But I like that if there was a power outage, I basically have a battery backup for these sensors. The cons of this, they may be difficult for users who aren't a little tech savvy. So you might want to hire a technician, like an IT technician or an electrician to install. I mean, there is a little bit involved here. it's about the same as getting to use like hearing aids and connecting that to your smartphone. It's about that level of complexity. They have very good guides to walk you through, and the devices themselves will say, okay, next I want you to take the battery cover out. Okay, next I want you to press and hold the button until it beeps. And they have generally good setup processes, but again, it can be, it can be a little intimidating. Individual components may have their own warranties, but you won't get one to cover the whole system. Again, you're buying this system piecemeal. So they don't, each individual component, each sensor has its own warranty, but you don't get like a system one saying, well, what if this doesn't work? What if, for example, I've got a smart light and it's on my rear deck and it's not working properly because I can't get the Wi-Fi signal, right? What do you mean? They have a help desk. You can file a ticket and basically request, support basically via email. But it can be a little challenging. I had a couple of challenges that they were actually able to help me work through. And you may have difficulty integrating this into your home system. So they may or not work with Amazon. Again, so what we're talking about is platform compatibility. Now, what I did is I actually own Wise, and Wise is perfectly connected into Amazon Alexa. One of the ways I use this is, and I'm going to show you my system in a minute, is I have Amazon Alexa on my television through an Amazon Fire IPTV, and I can say, "Hey Alexa, show me the front door," and it appears on my television, and it shows me the front door. Oh, that's just the mailman. No problem. I'm not going to look at it. Or it's, I don't know, Jehovah's Witness. I'm going to continue watching the news and not go and attend to it. So when you're looking at these, either the do-it-yourself or professionally installed systems, you might want to consider platform compatibility, or maybe it has its own platform like ADT does. This is my house, and I'm showing you some of the sensors. So up here on the upper right, this is the outside looking towards the front of my house. This is the inside. The upper right is the inside looking outside. What I'm showing you with this yellow bar is that's the same concrete stoop. So I'm looking in and looking out. So I can see whoever is showing up. And again, with my systems, they record 24 hours a day to disk and they upload to the Wise Cloud. Here I'm showing you the inside of my house. This is the first floor of the inside. And what you can see here is the Wise Platform Artificial Intelligence recognizes me as a person. Now I can create very specific rules. It can recognize an animal. It can recognize a package on my stoop. The artificial intelligence is getting better and better. And what I can do is, and I'll talk about this again in a minute, that I can trigger very specific actions. Hey, if it's a dog, don't do anything. But if it's a person, send me a warning notification. Let's go to the next one. This is the last set of my outdoor computers that's showing you both my driveway. And my driveway, and you can't see because it's actually sitting on top of my work shed, but I have solar powered. So I have basically a solar panel there. It's not very big. It's maybe, I don't know, 12 inches by 12 inches, and it powers this camera. So I never have to worry about, the batteries of this camera. They last pretty much forever. Occasionally I have to take it down and give it a little boost, but for the most part, it's fine. And then I'm showing you the back part of my house. All the cameras, again, they record locally on memory cards. But what if someone takes the camera, right? It's also uploading to the Wise Cloud in real time. And it records about a month worth of data. So I occasionally I've gone back, and I saw one time along this back edge of my deck, I put my herb garden. So I put, 15 or 20 herb plants there, and they were disappearing. And I looked at this camera and I saw it was the deer that were coming from Harm's Woods to eat the various herbs. They were eating the basil and they were eating the thyme and just crunching it through. I'm like, and I couldn't figure it out. But finally, I looked on the camera and said, "Oh, it's just the local animals from the Cook County Forest Preserve." So, okay, that's my sacrifice. So I'll sacrifice a few in the front and leave some other ones in the back. They didn't jump on the deck, so okay, that's fine. This is in my basement. And what I'm showing you here would be a typical installation of what smart devices for home security would look like. So you can see on the left, I've got a motion detector for the lower hallway. These things are extremely sensitive. you cannot move an inch. Anything as large as a dog cannot move an inch without throwing this detector off. You can see I've got a smart smoke and carbon dioxide detector. So my furnace and my water heater are immediately behind that wall that you see with those three circles. And so I put that there just to make sure that we don't have any problems with carbon monoxide. But then you can see on this right-hand wall, I've got another motion detector. And what I did with that is I put that motion detector to avoid there are three windows there. And instead of putting three window detectors, I just put this motion detector. So literally, if there's any movement larger than, let's say, a hummingbird, it's going to detect it. It's going to send me a notification. And the rules that I use will determine what it should do. Should you fire the alarm? This bottom controller here is just a smart light controller. So it's got
Patrick, excuse me, Patrick. Can
certainly.
you tell us, there's a question on whether there's a backup if your electricity goes out.
So these devices are battery-based devices. So absolutely. Also, the base station also has, it only has about an hour worth of power. So you can definitely do that. The other question that you need to ask is what happens? So when you're considering a home security system, what happens when your internet goes out? So most of them, all the professional systems will give you the option to purchase a cellular backup system. In other words, it will use a cellular connection instead of an internet connection through an ISP. That is an option. That is an option with this system. I chose not to use it. It actually is connected through my phone. So my phone, when it connects to the Wise app, it basically, but it can't control the alarming. So definitely something you need to consider, and that is a very good question to ask. What happens in a power failure? What happens in an internet failure? So mine will
Okay.
continue.
And Patrick, um, if you don't do this yourself, do you have
Mhm.
an estimate of how much a system like this might cost?
So this is the Wise standard do-it-yourself system. Generally, the devices are going to be between $200 and $300. The monthly monitoring service, is $10 to $15 a month. But to have someone install, I'm going to show you in a minute with the list of sensors that I have. I have 20 sensors. They take about 5 to 8 minutes each to install. So you're looking at, probably 2 or 3 hours of time, someone that's going to cost you $50 to $60 an hour. So a computer technician could come and link these into your network for you. So the professional installation on a home system is going to cost you a few $100s.
Thank
Is
you.
that is that a good answer?
Yes, thank you.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, this is my actual house, and these are the devices that I use, and there's no way that there can be movement out my house without it throwing an alarm. It's not possible. Here is a partial list of the devices that I have. And you can see I've got motion detectors and I've got door detectors, and this list goes on and on and on. It's showing you the status of everyone, whether or not they're armed. Here's the interesting thing. So you see there's little thing called automations. So automations are customized versions. It says, when you see motion in the master bedroom, do this. So I'm basically going to say it. So if I would say, for example, hey, if I'm home and you see motion in the living room, go ahead and turn on living room camera, right? And I've authorized my monitoring service to look at that particular camera because I don't want them to call the police or fire department, if it's not an emergency. And for a while, the system was so sensitive that when a big truck with very bright lights went by, those lights would hit a mirror right at the entryway to my house, and it would be misconstrued. Now, I've since trained the system to recognize this, but in the beginning, it was potentially firing off that alarm. Automations allow you to trigger what you want to happen when a sensor gets fired. And maybe it's nothing. We look at this. This is my home monitoring panel. You can see I've got where the system being disarmed. Here are the sensors that I want enabled when I'm home. Obviously, the inside sensors probably won't be turned on. The outside sensors will be turned on. When I'm on away mode, I turn everything on. So you can see it's checked. So here's me at probably Monday and Tuesday. Here's me Tuesday at the senior center for a few hours. You can see I turn the alarm on while I'm off. There are extremely high level of settings that you can have here. highly customizable as far as what you want to happen, both when you're home and when you're away. Over here, this is the important one. So you can see me showing a little red arrow. This is the digital panic button. So this is available in any of the rooms in my home. If you press this, everything fires. If you wanted to, you could buy, Wise sells a device, a physical button that you can put in a appropriate location, perhaps on a nightstand or something like that. And you fire that, you immediate seconds later, you get a text message saying, we have received an alarm. We will be calling, and then 10 seconds later, you get a phone call. This is Wise. You have identified an emergency. How should we respond? And one time I was coming home and my wife's cell phone, it ran out, the battery went dead, and she could not disable the alarm. So she had to go in the house. She went in the house, they called me, and I'm like, oh, okay, let me turn on the living room camera. I saw my wife was there. I saw that was my wife and no one else. I said, please disable. Here's the security code. It's just my wife, and something must have happened. It's happened once in like 3 or 4 years. You're going to find that there are going to be some scenarios that you'll want to think through. Hey, what should happen if, I do not want a control pad in my house. I think that's a security risk. If I an actual person that was an assailant in my house, I wouldn't want to have the ability to disable it. What I do want is I want to have the ability to disable it, and still I want my monitoring service to know that there's trouble. So still call the police even though you disable the alarm, and you have multiple passcodes to communicate that without getting yourself in trouble in a potential conflict situation. So yeah, I think after this, I leave the home alarming system. From a standpoint of home security and home protection, I think, this is an extremely wise choice. I actually I've only had the system for 5 years. For 20 years, I basically had nothing. I trusted the goodness and faith of the average Glenview resident and our visitors to our city. I would say now I don't sleep well without it. I'm in Brazil. I'm going to be leaving for Brazil this March for 3 weeks. So advance notice, there'll be 3 weeks that I won't be at the Tuesday Club or at the Friday technical service. But I can monitor everything. So I have international data plan, and I can control everything just as if I were here. And I have a separate way of managing the front door codes from my front door. And so I can manage all of this remotely. Hey, I can let my housekeeper in, and I turn the alarm off before she comes in, and I turn it off. So turn it on, turn it off. Okay. Next section. Oh, okay. So we're completely changing directions now. Let me say, are there any questions, Ron, currently on any type of home monitoring or do-it-yourself home security or professional home security?
Yes, let me get to a couple that have come up, and a reminder that we probably have 15 minutes after you answer these questions.
Okay.
Because we're giving them in real time. There's no one in person. But
Okay.
what about hacking and theft? Can
Yes.
you address both of those issues?
Yeah. So hacking, I mean, is it possible that someone could hack into these systems? Um, it's an extremely remote possibility. What I would suggest, though, the one device that I will not attach to my Wi-Fi network is the deadlock that I have on my front door. I keep that completely isolated. The other thing is, even if they could get in, the alarms would still go off. Could someone hack in? And so they'd have to download the app, download my account information, and then pretend that they're me. And then when they violate this, I mean, they could potentially disarm it. It's an extremely unlikely scenario. I mean, the work that they would have to do to get that, I mean, they basically would have to have me hostage and say, okay, we want you to disarm the system or we're going to shoot you in the leg or something like that. Absent a scenario like that, extremely unlikely. And it's actually the reason why I don't have what if a robber came in and he forced me to disable the alarm? Then I'd have to
What
go.
about stealing your outside cameras?
It's possible. You can't actually see how high they are up. You would need a pretty tall ladder to get at mine. I had them installed at just over 10 feet. It's possible, but I would see you, and there are probably multiple cameras looking at you and recording you while you did it. It's possible. Those cameras are about $35 each, and then all the data, that you stole with the disk inside the camera is also been uploaded to the cloud. So you pretty sure I'd get a pretty good look at you doing that.
Pretty good deterrence. Thank you, Patrick.
Certainly. All right. So here's where we're looking at the next session. Medical alert systems. So this is the one area where I don't claim to be an expert on. I've actually done some research and I looked at the two best models. So these are extra measure of safety for older adults or anyone who lives at home or has a medical condition. Most medical alert companies, they provide both in-home units and on-the-go devices. And so the best necklaces for fall detection are made by Medical Guardian and Mobile Help Classic. And then the best medical alert watches, again, are made by Medical Guardian, uh, Bay Area Medical, and Unali wear Kanega, which it must be a Chinese company. But what these are, so basically these are accelerometers. They measure angular velocity, and they're designed to trigger at a certain angular velocity. Um, they tend to be extremely conservative. So there are a lot of false alarms where you didn't really trip or fall, but it still recorded it. Maybe you just, you might have tripped, but you didn't fall. And so it'll still record a device. These work using a cellular technology for the most part. Some of them are both Wi-Fi and cellular integrated, but they always have a cellular backup. So if you can take these out of the house, then, specifically external wearable, then they have a cellular connection. So as a result of that, they generally cost between $35 and $60 a month. There's a subscription service. And again, it has the same kind of someone who's going to immediately notify and call for emergency assistance should an alarm be triggered. I'm going to move on here a little bit. And emergency response systems. So when you need help, there should always be support available. That's my Patrick theory. I would say when you need help, there should always be someone listening. So with these emergency help systems, and you can see for a long time, we relied just on the 911 emergency response system. Billions of dollars have been invested and it's constantly being upgraded. We just had a major upgrade in the village of Glenview, and that 911 system is shared by 5 different communities. Home security and automated emergency response based on rules and triggered responses and panic buttons. So this is using, instead of using 911, you might use your home security system and having rules and panic buttons to basically get a response that you need. Now, for smart devices, there are alternatives to installing, a complete home security. If that seems too daunting, what I wanted to show you was this Amazon Alexa's Emergency Assist. And I'm going to just briefly show you, bear with me for a minute to show you this while I'm going to share and unshare it. And I just want you to see the promo for this. It's quite compelling.
Alexa is here for your everydays, your play days, your home improvement days, your game days. But if your day turns into an unexpected one, Alexa Emergency Assist is there to help. In an emergency, anyone in your home can easily call for help.
Our pizza's on fire.
Hands-free with Alexa.
Alexa, call for help.
And a trained agent will respond right away.
Hello, this is Nick from Urgent Response. Do you need emergency assistance?
Your emergency contacts are automatically notified when the call starts and ends. The agent will request dispatch of emergency services, whether it's police, ambulance, or fire. Information saved in your profile, like medications, gate codes, and pets, saves precious time on the call and will be passed on to first responders so they can act fast. Alexa will also notify you if a smoke or carbon monoxide alarm is detected, whether you're home or away. With Alexa Emergency Assist, you'll have peace of mind every day, knowing you're prepared to get help when you need it most. Get help fast. Just ask.
There it is. And we're back, hopefully. So again, this price point for people that are Prime members is $5.99 per month. And it's $7.99 per month for non-Prime members. To me, I mean, this is a fantastic addition. You don't need to fumble for your phone. You just need to say, hey, Alexa, please help. And boom, there's someone. And basically, someone's always listening. that's a compelling solution for that kind of price. And of course, when we're looking at these things, whether you're looking at security systems, the panic button, or whether you're going to rely on 911 for service, or whether you're going to use a system like this, it's really a choice of what your personal plan is going to be for smart home automation. You have to make these choices. But I wanted to just bring this to your attention. I recommended this choice a number of times, and it's been everyone that's implemented it has been pretty happy with the service. The other thing is, you're not, you try this and you don't like it, you turn it off and you move on to the next thing. It's like any other subscription that you can turn on. It's not like a 12-month subscription or something like that. Anyway, okay, thank you. Let's see if it lets me go to the next slide. Okay, I think this is one of the last slides. So when we talk about these platforms, and they're showing them in the center here, they're showing Amazon Alexa and they're showing Google Nest in the center, and they could show Apple. And they're showing you the smart speakers as kind of the main way. Of course, you can also control them. You've got Amazon Alexa and Google Nest on your phone or tablet. You can control them that way as well. But I just wanted to share some of the things that you might do. So looking at these across we can see we've got lighting components, smart door locks, which I'm at the moment advising against. I'm not 100% sure of the robustness, resistance from hackers, but you can see it's pretty small. It's going to be hard for you to see, but there are 2.2 million devices that for smart door locks, but there are 84 million for smart wearables and 148 million for fire safety and life systems, 12 million for home appliances, 0.5 million for sprinkler systems, 1 million for garage door openers, home advisor services like Uber and Domino's Pizza and so on, 4.2 million vacuums and 45 million digital smart thermostats and 8 million wall switches. This is pretty much the diaspora of different device types. And there are thousands of different devices that are in each of these categories. We could do a whole lecture just talking about these various things. But here's some things that you might be able to do. You might want to set up an alarm to wake you up, or look up a favorite cooking recipe, maybe play your favorite music, ask for a weather report anywhere in the world. Hey, show me the weather in Saskatchewan. You can order a pizza with Domino's or order a Starbucks coffee, which you would have to pick up. I don't know if Uber Eats would deliver through this system. You could request a 5-minute meditation or a stretch, or ask for a movie review. Check your favorite stock price. And this is just you interacting with the speaker. So you're just interacting with the smart platform. You could ask for a foreign language translation of a particular passage. Have a chapter of a book read to you that you own in your digital library. Request headlines from the news, or find store hours from virtually every store. You could send a voicemail message, or actually ask it to calculate distance and driving time between any 2 points. Hey, Alexa, how long is it going to take me to drive from Chicago, Illinois to Detroit, Michigan? Oh, 4 hours and 40 minutes. It'll tell you all of this. It's a pretty compelling set of offerings. And so what I'm saying to you is, once you decide which of these devices make sense for you, you want to look at platform compatibility. Hey, I need to go with Google because I want to control all of this from my Samsung phone. Hey, I want the widest choice of the devices available, so I'm going to choose Amazon Alexa, and I need to make sure that the lighting components and the wall switches and the thermostats all work with Amazon Alexa, because I don't want to have multiple apps trying to control things. I think the last thing you want to do, once you gain a nice routine, you don't want to be fumbling through 2 or 3 different apps if you can possibly avoid it. So here's what we talked about. We talked about the basics of smart home and internet basic technology. We talked about home security and monitoring. We talked about medical alerts and emergency response briefly. And we talked about this list of smart devices that are available for your consideration. Here's my personal take on it. Prevention is always better than recovery. You can try these things rather inexpensively, except for some of the security systems can take more of an investment. But these devices, you can buy an Echo Dot for $25, and you can start, enabling Amazon Alexa skills and say, hey, I'm going to start with a light in the bedroom, and I'm going to put the light on random mode because I'm going to be away for 4 weeks. And it's going to turn that light on and off randomly, the same way light timers still work, but when they were used more often, this can all be controlled. And let's go to the next one. So please visit us at the North Shore Senior Center's Technology Assistance Lab on Fridays between 10 a.m. and noon in the Katarsky Room. Of course, it is free. We would be glad to talk about any of these things in more detail for you. If you want to start to put together a plan, we'd be pleased to assist you. And that is the end of my presentation. I'm pleased to take any questions you might have.
Patrick, that was excellent. And I want to give you an applaud from all of us because you won't hear it from others because we're all on Zoom. Let me share one other thing you can do with a smart appliance because I definitely want you to address this. You can definitely mess up. Let me tell you what we did just a month ago and give us your view on how we address this. Our range went out. So we got a brand new LG range that my wife loves, and I like it too. And we have an LG microwave right over it. And so she was cleaning the micro and leaning on the range, and something happened. Everything got locked out. It asked for an app. She accidentally pressed a button on the smart range. Now, the smart range wouldn't have let her cook anything in the oven. It gave a symbol, and I started pressing buttons. And the bottom line is that I recognized that you could connect this range using your cell phone, which I then did, and I was able to turn on the range, and I couldn't turn it off. In other words, I had to call a number real quick, get a hold of Apt, who got me to somebody with LG quickly, and they basically said, well, there's this one button. It's in the book. You press this and hold it for 2 seconds, and everything is fine. And in a 1-minute phone call, I was able to resolve an issue. So if you have a smart product and you press buttons that you don't know about, so comment about, you're a careful person. I'm less careful than my wife. So you tell me or us, how should we be looking at the kind of information that we get when we buy our appliances and products?
Yeah. So a lot of times I think the manuals, the technical writing, it may be from a Chinese firm and it's less than articulate. I'm going to be kind when I say that, it's difficult. What happened to you has actually happened to me as well. So all smart devices that are smart cooking devices, including ranges, they have a lockout button. And I was staying at an Airbnb in Phoenix, and the cat walked and it left its foot there just long enough to lock out the range. We had the exact same problem that you had. There was a little glowing button. We had no idea what it did. But of course, this is an Airbnb. What do we do? Now, eventually, someone got on and said, someone looked it up on the internet and downloaded the manual. What I suggest people do, and I just made this suggestion to my sister-in-law, who just purchased, she bought a Samsung S90 watch, and she was integrating it to her Samsung phone. And she had absolutely no idea. She came to me and she couldn't establish the Bluetooth setup. And so I did that for her. But I immediately said to her, I said, this device came with no instructions of any kind. I want you to go to YouTube. I want you to type operating instructions, Samsung S90 watch. And I want you to find a video or two to look through this and to see someone actually using this particular device. Because you're not going to get that from a manual, and the manuals may or may not make sense. I think YouTube is your friend here. This would be if you came with a device like this, and I believe Don came once with his Apple Watch, and we needed to go, and I said, Don, we're going to go to YouTube, and we're going to type in your problem. We're going to say Apple Watch, and then the problem that he had. And we were able to fix it pretty quickly. I think in absence of really good technical manuals and detailed descriptions, that's kind of going to be our go-to. Now, you could also go to, for in this case, LG's customer care site and try and find it through the Usenet groups that they have there. They've got these blogs where they're looking for this information. That might take a while. you're going to put in some search terms, and you may or may not know the right search terms to find it. YouTube would probably actually be faster. And so I'd say anytime you're using a smart device, the way to get yourself up to speed on it very quickly, and also on the app, hey, what do I need to say to Alexa or to Google such that it does what I want it to do? Hey, Alexa, illumination 60%, right? You need to say that. You can't say 6. You actually need to know what you need to say in order to get the response that you want. So I think in this case, these internet resources are going to be your friend.
Yep, thank you. We have one more question.
Certainly.
Also, I'll mention that when we had recently put in a new smart television, and app installed it for us. And when I said, well, if I have questions, the installer said, believe it or not, most of the time you're going to find the answer to your question on YouTube. And we had a couple of questions, and we absolutely found that answer on YouTube. But Lou Solomon has a question. He's asking about is Alexa hackable?
So the real people have asked this, and Alexa is, unless you mute her out, you can press a button to mute her. She's pretty much constantly listening. That data it exists in the Amazon cloud, and it's in a protected virtual private network. If they can attack the NSA, they potentially could get at that. What would they get? They would get the last verbal commands that you gave to the Alexa and a list of devices that you had potentially executed recently. It's a risk, but it's a fairly small risk relative to the benefit you'll get from the device. So are they hackable? Yes, potentially. Is there a huge risk there? Most likely not.
Richard, many thank yous from people on Zoom. I'm going to turn it back to Richard to conclude our meeting.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Well, I'll just say thank you very much, Patrick. That's a wealth of information you've given us, and it's all very practical and up to date. Just remember, this program was recorded, and if you missed part of it, it's available again. You can review it or come in on Friday morning, and we'll be happy to review any of these issues with you. So thanks a lot, Patrick.
Thank you so much. And remember, not this Friday, probably next Friday.
Not this Friday, right? Okay.
Great.
Bye
Thank
now.
you so much, everyone.